Hello dear listener, and welcome to this quiet space, a gentle pause as the day begins to fade. Tonight, we'll embark on a serene journey into the heart of human contemplation, exploring a realm that has shaped our understanding of existence itself, philosophy. Allow your thoughts to drift, softly, as we delve into the love of wisdom. The very word, philosophy, whispers to us from ancient times, from the ancient Greek words, philos, meaning love, and sophia, meaning wisdom. It is, quite literally, the love of wisdom. Imagine, if you will, the early thinkers, gazing at the stars, pondering the rustle of leaves, or the intricate dance of human emotions, driven by an insatiable, gentle curiosity, a deep affection for understanding the world around them, and their place within it. There's a beautiful, humbling suggestion that the term itself might have been coined by the pre-Socratic philosopher Pythagoras, though this remains, like many ancient whispers, shrouded in the mists of time. Regardless of its precise origin, the essence of love of wisdom has echoed through millennia, inviting minds to seek profound insight. This profound concept, philosophia, journeyed across cultures and languages, finding its way into English primarily through the Old French and Anglo-Norman tongues around the 12th century. Over time, its meaning deepened and broadened. It came to signify advanced study of the speculative subjects, the grand inquiries into logic, ethics, physics, and metaphysics. It evolved to embody deep wisdom, consisting of love of truth and virtuous living, suggesting a practical, lived dimension to this intellectual pursuit. It was understood as profound learning as transmitted by the ancient writers, honoring the lineage of thought that stretched back to the dawn of civilization. And, most fundamentally for our modern understanding, it represents the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, and the basic limits of human understanding. Now, it's fascinating to consider that, for a significant portion of history, the term philosophy was used in a much wider sense than it is today. Imagine a vast, encompassing tree, where philosophy was the trunk and its major branches included almost every form of rational inquiry. All the individual sciences we recognize today, physics, chemistry, biology, psychology, were once considered subdisciplines within the expansive domain of philosophy. Think of natural philosophy, a major branch that explored the very workings of the natural world. It was a single, grand pursuit of understanding that didn't yet delineate between the how and the why, between empirical observation and metaphysical speculation. A testament to this historical breadth is Isaac Newton's monumental 1687 work, Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica. The title itself speaks volumes, Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy. Today, we categorize this book as a foundational text in physics, describing the laws of motion and universal gravitation. Yet, Newton, a towering figure of scientific revolution, called his work natural philosophy. This subtle shift in nomenclature, from natural philosophy to physics, perfectly illustrates how, over centuries, what was once an integrated pursuit gradually specialized and differentiated. The individual sciences, driven by empirical methodology and precise measurement, began to carve out their own distinct paths, gradually narrowing the scope of what we commonly refer to as philosophy today. Towards the end of the modern period, a new, more specific understanding of philosophy began to emerge. In this contemporary sense, the term became more closely associated with a core set of disciplines, metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics. It began to focus more intensely on the rational study of reality, knowledge, and values, distinguishing itself from the empirical sciences and mathematics. While the sciences explore how the world works through observation and experimentation, philosophy often delves into the meaning of that working, the nature of the underlying reality, and the ethical implications of our discoveries. It asks questions that science, by its very nature, cannot directly answer. The practice of philosophy, at its heart, is characterized by several enduring features. It is, first and foremost, a form of rational inquiry. It relies on reason, logic, and critical thinking rather than dogma or unexamined belief. It is not about simply accepting answers but about rigorously questioning, analyzing, and constructing coherent arguments. Secondly, philosophy aims to be systematic. It doesn't offer isolated thoughts or fragmented insights, but rather seeks to build comprehensive frameworks of understanding, connecting ideas into a cohesive whole. Like an intricate tapestry, each philosophical concept is woven into a larger design, offering a holistic view of a topic. And thirdly, and perhaps most uniquely, philosophy tends to critically reflect on its own methods and presuppositions. It questions not just the world, but also the very tools it uses to question, our language, our logic, our assumptions about reality itself. It's a self-aware intellectual endeavor, constantly examining its own foundations. This philosophical journey, this quiet pursuit of wisdom, requires a particular kind of attentiveness, thinking long and carefully about those provocative, vexing, and enduring problems that lie at the very core of the human condition. These are not questions with easy, straightforward answers. They are the grand mysteries that have captivated humanity for millennia. What does it mean to exist? What can we truly know? How should we live? What is the nature of consciousness, of time, of beauty? The very act of engaging with these questions, of allowing your mind to wander through their complexities, can be profoundly clarifying and calming. Often, the philosophical pursuit doesn't culminate in a definitive yes or no answer. Instead, its true value lies in helping a person to better understand the topic itself, to examine their own life with greater clarity, to dispel confusion that clouds the mind, and to overcome the subtle prejudices and self-deceptive ideas that often arise from unexamined common sense. It's an invitation to introspection, a call to look inward and critically at the assumptions we hold. Remember the words of Socrates, that ancient Athenian sage, who famously declared that the unexamined life is not worth living. This profound statement highlights the transformative role of philosophic inquiry. It suggests that a life lived without questioning one's beliefs, values, and purpose is a life lived in a diminished state, lacking the richness and depth that comes from conscious, critical engagement with existence. To examine one's life is to seek understanding, not just of external facts, but of internal truths, of one's own motivations, biases, and deepest aspirations. It is a path to self-knowledge and, ultimately, to a more authentic and meaningful existence. Let us gently turn our attention to the global tapestry of philosophical thought, noticing how different traditions have approached these universal questions. Historically, four influential traditions stand out: Western, Arabic, Persian, Indian, and Chinese philosophy. Each offers a unique lens, a different path to the love of wisdom. Western philosophy, originating in the vibrant city-states of ancient Greece, blossomed into a diverse landscape of thought, covering a wide array of philosophical subfields. From the pre-Socratic's inquiries into the fundamental stuff of the universe, to Plato's eternal forms and Aristotle's meticulous categorization of knowledge, Western thought laid foundations for logic, ethics, metaphysics, and political theory that continue to resonate today. Its journey through Roman thought, medieval scholasticism, the Enlightenment, and until modern analytic and continental traditions showcases a continuous critical dialogue, an evolving conversation about reason, individuality, freedom, and the nature of reality. It has wrestled with the relationship between faith and reason, the structure of political society, and the very possibility of objective knowledge, often emphasizing logical argumentation and systematic analysis. Across continents, Arabic-Persian philosophy developed a rich intellectual tradition, often at the crossroads of ancient Greek wisdom and Abrahamic revelation. A central topic within this tradition is the intricate relation between reason and revelation. How do the truths uncovered by human intellect, through logic and observation, harmonize with the divine truths presented in religious texts? Philosophers like Al-Kindi, Al-Farabi, Avicenna, Ibn Sina, and Averroes, Ibn Rushd, engaged deeply with Aristotelian and Neoplatonic thought, interpreting and expanding upon it within an Islamic context. Their inquiries often explored the nature of God, the human soul, epistemology, and ethics, seeking a coherent philosophical framework that could reconcile the apparent differences between rational inquiry and scriptural authority, fostering a tradition of profound metaphysical and logical sophistication. Meanwhile, Indian philosophy presents a captivating blend, combining the spiritual problem of how to reach enlightenment with a rigorous exploration of the nature of reality and the ways of arriving at knowledge. Rooted in ancient Vedic texts and developing through diverse schools such as Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Carvaka, Indian thought has delved deep into concepts like karma, reincarnation, dharma, and moksha, liberation. It asks not just, what is real, but, how can I transcend suffering and achieve ultimate freedom? The pursuit of knowledge in India is often inextricably linked to practices of self-cultivation, meditation, and ethical living. Epistemology, pramana, for instance, is not merely an intellectual exercise but a vital pathway to liberation, examining the validity of perception, inference, analogy, and verbal testimony as sources of truth. The ultimate goal is often a transformative understanding that leads to a profound spiritual realization, a transcendence of the ordinary human condition. Chinese philosophy, in contrast, has historically focused principally on practical issues. Its profound wisdom is often directed towards right social conduct, effective government, and diligent self-cultivation. Thinkers like Confucius, Laozi, and Mencius shaped traditions such as Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism, which, though diverse, often share a common thread: how to create a harmonious society and a virtuous individual. Rather than abstract metaphysical speculation for its own sake, Chinese philosophy often examines human relationships, moral duties, political order, and the cultivation of inner character, Da. The concept of Tao, the way, in Taoism, for example, offers a path to living in harmony with the natural flow of the universe, leading to inner peace and effective action, while Confucianism emphasizes ritual, filial piety, and benevolence as cornerstones of a stable and ethical society. The emphasis is on wisdom that can be applied to daily life, fostering peace and order in both the individual and the collective. As we gently drift through these traditions, let's explore the major branches of philosophy, each a unique avenue for deeper understanding. The core branches are epistemology, ethics, logic, and metaphysics. Let's begin with epistemology. This branch studies what knowledge is and how we acquire it. It delves into profound questions: what does it mean to know something? How can we distinguish genuine knowledge from mere belief or opinion? What are the limits of human understanding? When you reflect on your own experiences, how do you come to know that the sky is blue, or that gravity exists, or that you someone? Epistemology explores the sources of knowledge. Is it primarily through our senses, empiricism, through reason alone, rationalism, or through some combination? It grapples with skepticism, asking if we can truly know anything for certain, or if our perceptions and reasoning are inherently flawed. Scientifically, epistemology is profoundly interconnected with cognitive science and neuroscience. How our brains process information, form memories, perceive the world, and even construct our sense of self are all areas of intense research that inform and are informed by epistemological questions. For instance, studies on perception biases or the fallibility of memory directly speak to the reliability of our knowledge derived from experience. Understanding how our cognitive architecture shapes our understanding is a joint venture between philosophy and science. Next, we encounter ethics, the branch that investigates moral principles and what constitutes right conduct. This is where we grapple with questions of good and bad, right and wrong, justice and injustice. How should we live our lives? What obligations do we have to others? Are moral truths universal, or are they relative to cultures and individuals? Ethics explores different frameworks for moral decision-making: consequentialism, judging actions by their outcomes; deontology, judging actions by their adherence to duties or rules; and virtue ethics, judging actions by the character traits they express. It touches every aspect of human interaction, from personal choices to global policies. Philosophically, it challenges us to articulate our values and defend our moral stances. Scientifically, ethics has fascinating intersections with evolutionary biology, psychology, and neuroscience. For example, researchers explore the evolutionary roots of altruism, the psychological mechanisms behind empathy, or the brain regions activated during moral dilemmas, offering insights into the biological and cognitive foundations of our moral intuitions. These scientific findings don't prescribe what is right, but they can illuminate why we have certain moral feelings, adding another layer to the ethical inquiry. Then there is logic, the study of correct reasoning. Logic is the foundational tool for all philosophical inquiry, and indeed, for all rational thought. It explores how good arguments can be distinguished from bad ones. What makes a conclusion necessarily follow from its premises? How can we identify fallacies, those errors in reasoning that can lead us astray? Logic teaches us to think clearly, precisely, and systematically. It provides frameworks like deductive reasoning, where conclusions are certain if premises are true, and inductive reasoning, where conclusions are probable. Mastering logic is like sharpening a mental knife, allowing us to cut through confusion and identify inconsistencies. It underpins not only philosophy but also mathematics, computer science, and the scientific method itself, where the rigorous construction of hypotheses and experimental design depends on sound logical principles. In a very real sense, logic is the grammar of thought, ensuring that our intellectual sentences make sense and our conclusions are well-founded. Finally, we arrive at metaphysics, arguably the most expansive and fundamental branch. Metaphysics examines the most general features of reality, existence, objects, and properties. It asks the biggest questions: what is reality fundamentally made of? Is there a God? Do we have free will? What is the nature of time and space? What does it mean for something to exist? This branch delves into concepts like substance, causality, identity, and potentiality. Are minds separate from bodies? What is consciousness, and where does it come from? While seemingly abstract, metaphysical questions often precede scientific inquiry. For example, questions about the fundamental constituents of matter, once purely metaphysi. Became the domain of physics. Today, theoretical physics, with its explorations of quantum mechanics, string theory, and cosmology, often finds itself at the edge of metaphysics, grappling with the nature of reality at its most fundamental level, asking questions about multiple universes, the beginning of time, or the ultimate fate of the cosmos. The boundary between speculative physics and metaphysics is often wonderfully blurry, inviting both philosophical and scientific minds to ponder the deepest truths. Beyond these core branches, philosophy spreads its roots into many other rich subfields, each offering a unique perspective. Aesthetics explores the nature of beauty, art, and taste. Why do we find certain things beautiful? What is the purpose of art? What is creativity? Philosophy of language investigates the relationship between language, thought, and reality. How do words mean? How does language shape our understanding of the world? Philosophy of mind grapples with the nature of consciousness, mental states, and the mind-body problem. How does the brain give rise to subjective experience? Philosophy of religion critically examines religious beliefs, concepts, and practices, exploring arguments for and against the existence of God, the problem of evil, and the nature of faith. Philosophy of science scrutinizes the methods, assumptions, and implications of scientific inquiry. What distinguishes science from pseudoscience? How do scientific theories change? Philosophy of mathematics explores the foundations and implications of mathematics. Are mathematical objects real? Is mathematics invented or discovered? Philosophy of history investigates the nature of history as a discipline, its methods, and whether there is meaning or direction to historical events. And political philosophy delves into the fundamental questions about the state, government, justice, liberty, rights, and the legitimate use of authority. What is the ideal society? What are the limits of governmental power? Within each of these branches, dear listener, you'll find a vibrant landscape of competing schools of philosophy. These schools promote different principles, theories, or methods, leading to an ongoing, dynamic dialogue that continues to enrich our understanding. It's not about finding one single, definitive answer, but about the continuous process of asking better questions and refining our understanding. To arrive at philosophical knowledge, philosophers employ a great variety of methods, each a unique tool for uncovering deeper truths. One such method is conceptual analysis. This involves breaking down complex ideas, concepts, or terms into their simpler components to understand their underlying structure and meaning. For example, what do we truly mean by justice, freedom, or truth? By dissecting these concepts, we can identify their essential features, uncover hidden assumptions, and clarify their use, moving beyond superficial understandings. Philosophers also frequently rely on common sense and intuitions. While not infallible, our shared human experience and intuitive grasp of certain principles often serve as starting points for philosophical inquiry. For instance, the intuition that we have free will, or that certain actions are inherently wrong, might be examined, challenged, or defended through philosophical argument. The use of thought experiments is another powerful method. These are imaginative scenarios designed to test a hypothesis, illustrate a point, or explore the logical consequences of an idea. Consider the famous trolley problem in ethics, a hypothetical situation where one must choose between two undesirable outcomes to save lives. Such thought experiments don't happen in a lab, but they allow us to probe our moral intuitions and principles in a controlled, albeit imaginary, setting, revealing deeper insights into our ethical frameworks. Analysis of ordinary language is another crucial tool, particularly in certain traditions of philosophy. This method suggests that much philosophical confusion arises from misunderstanding how language works in everyday contexts. By carefully examining how words are used, philosophers can dissolve apparent problems or reveal hidden assumptions embedded within our linguistic structures. Description of experience, often associated with phenomenology, involves carefully articulating and examining the structure of human experience itself, without imposing preconceived theories. It seeks to understand what it is like to experience consciousness, emotion, perception, or time, as directly as possible, offering a rich tapestry of lived reality. And finally, critical questioning, epitomized by Socrates, lies at the heart of all philosophy. It involves relentlessly probing assumptions, challenging accepted beliefs, and refusing to take anything for granted. This method encourages us to ask, why, again and again, pushing us beyond superficial answers to the foundational layers of our understanding. It is an act of intellectual courage, inviting us to critically examine everything, even our most cherished convictions. Philosophy, in its expansive and humble pursuit of wisdom, is intimately related to many other fields of human endeavor. It doesn't exist in an ivory tower but rather extends its roots and branches into a rich network of knowledge. It provides an essential interdisciplinary perspective, offering a unique vantage point from which to study the scope and fundamental concepts of fields as diverse as the natural sciences, social sciences, mathematics, business, law, and journalism. Consider its relationship with the natural sciences. While science explores the empirical world through observation and experiment, philosophy investigates the foundations of scientific knowledge. It asks, what are the limits of scientific explanation? What is the nature of scientific truth? What is a scientific theory, and how does it relate to reality? The philosophy of science delves into the methodologies of physics, biology, and chemistry, critically examining their assumptions, their criteria for evidence, and their conceptual frameworks. For example, questions about causality, the nature of scientific laws, or the interpretation of quantum mechanics are often explored at the intersection of philosophy and physics, pushing the boundaries of both disciplines. With the social sciences, fields like sociology, anthropology, and psychology, philosophy contributes by examining their fundamental concepts. What constitutes a society? What does culture truly mean? What is human nature? Philosophy of mind, for instance, informs and is informed by psychology and neuroscience, wrestling with the nature of consciousness, emotions, and free will, asking how subjective experience can arise from physical brain processes. It also investigates their methods, critically evaluating the validity of different research approaches and the ethical implications of studying human behavior and social structures. Even in mathematics, a realm of abstract certainty, philosophy plays a role. The philosophy of mathematics explores foundational questions. What are numbers? Do mathematical objects exist independently of human thought? What is the nature of mathematical truth? These are not questions that mathematics itself can answer but are crucial for a complete understanding of its nature. In the practical domains of human activity, philosophy offers vital ethical and conceptual guidance. In business, philosophy contributes to ethical decision-making, corporate social responsibility, and the very purpose of economic activity. What constitutes fair exchange? What are the moral obligations of corporations? In law, political philosophy and ethics are foundational, shaping our understanding of justice, rights, duties, and the legitimate exercise of state power. How do we define liberty? W. Hat is the basis of human rights. In journalism, the philosophy of language and epistemology are crucial for understanding the nature of truth, objectivity, and the ethical responsibilities of conveying information in a complex world. How do we ascertain facts? What biases might be inherent in reportage? Across all these fields, philosophy acts as a critical conscience and a conceptual architect. It provides a framework for reflecting on the deepest questions that arise within each discipline, examining their methods, their scope, and their ethical implications. It asks not just what can be done, but what should be done, and what it means to do it. This gentle journey into philosophy is not about finding final answers that can be neatly packaged. Instead, it is about cultivating a deeper capacity for understanding, for critical inquiry, and for self-reflection. It's about recognizing the profound interconnectedness of knowledge and the enduring human quest to make sense of our world and our place within it. As the quiet of the evening deepens, I invite you to carry these thoughts with you. Allow the questions of existence, knowledge, mind, reason, language, and value to resonate gently within you. There is a profound peace to be found in the love of wisdom, in the willingness to think deeply, to examine, and to wonder. May your sleep be peaceful, and may your mind find calm as you reflect on the rich tapestry of human thought. Good night, dear listener.